Okay, that was weird. All right, what's up out there? This is Shelvon. I guess I am going by myself today. So I just had something weird just happen. So bear with me a little bit. That's weird. I'm not getting any. Huh, that is very anything. Okay, why it's not playing any music? Nothing's muted. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know if anybody can hear me. Let me adjust the volume. Okay. So, all right. Well, so this probably will be a not too long episode. I don't know. So, what about you? You know what? I am going to check out this article that I saw first. So that doesn't require any sound because I don't know what's going on with my sound because I don't hear anything. All right. So let's share that. Check out this article about whether or not Disney is bad for Star Wars. I would think so, but it's the Hollywood Reporter, so I wonder what their viewpoint of that is. So let's check it out. Okay, it's twitching all over the place. Gotta love these. Every website you go to is full of ads, which causes the thing to move around a little bit while you're trying to read it. So, they got to make money. So, got to give them that. So, this is the Hollywood Reporter. And the article is called Is Disney Bad at Star Wars? An Analysis. All right. High budget, scrap projects, fan backlash. It's been 12 years since Disney bought Star Wars, and its galaxy far, far away arguably has too many broken toys. All right. There's an exchange in Star Wars The Force Awakens when Rey and Finn are fleeing the stormtroopers and searching for a way to escape. Ray spots the legendary Millennium Falcon and declares it looks like garbage, and then quickly reconsiders the garbage will do. Increasingly, that's an attitude some fans have about Disney's Star Wars programming. Look, we all know this isn't fantastic anymore, but Star Wars is still Star Wars. Yeah, I no, I have many comics and books from Star Wars, so I think I and like a lot of people won't accept. Yeah, I think I and like a lot of people aren't willing to accept just anything because that's how you wind up with a bunch of crap. It's because you're willing to accept anything. All right. To be fair, Disney Star Wars shows and movies remain far from space junk. I would beg to disagree with the Acolyte and Ahsoka, which we're going to talk about a little bit. It's a lot of space junk written by people who either don't care about the IP or aren't very good at writing stories. All right. Okay, their titles typically get glowing reviews from critics and generate box office returns and streaming ratings that other studios would envy, though at a high cost. Yeah, these the movies. I think we all know that Disney has not actually made a profit at owning Star Wars. It's still like they have not made the money that they gave to George Lucas back, and it's been 12 years. So let's run through Disney Star Wars legacy to date, from Force Awakens to the Acolyte, and see what conclusion might be drawn. Because several aspects of the company's track record admittedly look shaky. A five movie franchise that was halted after its box office returns tending in the wrong direction. Six live action shows, just one of which has been a multi season hit. A startling number of projects put in development and then abandoned, like Starships on Braca, and one wildly ambitious role play hotel that closed after a little more than a year. It raises the question: Is Disney kind of bad at Star Wars? Yes, That should be pretty obvious at this point. Or is this a case where a very high bar for success combined with a passionate fandom's gripes tend to obscure what is otherwise a hugely popular, lucrative franchise? And let's take a closer look. Okay, all right. Disney has not made their money back from having Star Wars. They paid George Lucas like $4 billion. And yes, if you look at just the surface level, the amount of movies that the amount of money that these movies have generated, then it would appear that they have made a profit. But once you take out the theaters cut and international cut and all that stuff, and the fact that the amount of money that each movie is making, as they say in the article, has been diminishing with each iteration of the movie. Like the each new movie that comes out, it makes less and less money, and the amount of merchandise that they're selling. Because one of the reasons Disney probably bought Star Wars is because it had a very strong IP and it made a lot of money on the merchandise, and that's where you make your money. Overall, money is with the merchandise. It is the TV. It is not TV shows. It is the T-shirts and action figures and bed sheets and various other things that are not selling anymore. It's like Star Wars used to have a huge section at Walmart and Target, and it doesn't anymore. And it's because the product that you're putting out is subpar, and you spend too much time disrespecting the fan base, and that's the ones that you need to get so that they can give you their money. And if you disrespect them enough, then they won't give you their money. So I truly don't understand why these different types of people don't seem to understand that. Okay, the films "Let the Past Die," "Kill It If You Have to." Oof, it was a stupid line. After buying Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012, Disney relaunched Star Wars as a franchise trilogy with 2015. In 2015, directed by J.J. Abrams, The Force Awakens, the film was an absolute blockbuster. Yet, surprisingly, as it turned out, problematically, the studio did not have a firm creative plan for the next two films, at least not one that was followed. Yes, Ryan Johnson's 2017 sequel, The Last Jedi, took the story into a different direction that many loved and many didn't. It essentially split the fan base in half. Okay, probably should have pulled the article up. It essentially split the fan base in half. Um, and over time, that half that did not like it grew. So it was like kind of a 50-50 bit. And a lot of the people who liked it at the time later on realized that they don't. So it's probably like up to a third liked it and two-thirds didn't. And I know when I saw it when I left the theater, basically I'm like, okay, I'm done. I didn't need to watch anything else. So I did not watch the Rise of the Skywalkers or whatever it's called. Yeah. Because essentially what Ryan Johnson did was take everything that J.J. Abrams did, flush it out the toilet, because most people were kind of hoping that Finn was going to become a Jedi or something like that. And uh, Ryan Johnson turned him into a janitor, a bumbling janitor who fumbled around and basically got led around by the various women in the movie. So people truly did not like that. Okay. Mhm. All right. Then Abrams returned in 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. See, I don't even remember what the name was properly, and tried to push the narrative closer to his original intentions. Comedians learn in improv class to always say yes and yes and to any idea introduced during a show, no matter how challenging. The studio and Abrams' reactions to The Last Jedi was more like, no, actually. Rey is a nobody. No, she's a Palpatine. The result was a trilogy that is mismatch of dueling creative visions. Lucas took a similar "I am making this up as I go" approach to his original trilogy, but it's far easier to maintain a saga's cohesion when all the films are being led by the same person. Yes, it is good to have a singular vision for your project, which is why if you're going to do a trilogy, you should come up with an overall outline of how your story ends and how it starts, and look at each character and decide how their arc is going to be, so that they are more fleshed out characters. And that is pretty obvious that that's not what Disney did. Uh, I have no idea what their plans were, other than Ray being kind of a Mary Sue, because in the first movie, she knew how to do everything. She had no challenges. I can't even imagine how difficult to fly the Millennium Falcon would be for any pilot, let alone one who's never flown anything. Because one, most ships, what a cockpit is in the center of the ship. So as the ship rotates in flight, you're basically in the middle of it, so you're not thrown off. Whereas with the Millennium Falcon, you're on the edge. So every time it rotates, you're rotating around the axis. So that will be very difficult for you to actually pilot very well. So the fact that she sits in this thing, and it's not only is she able to outfly TIE fighter pilots who are basically trained in their ships and have uh more generally like center line ships, she's able to fly this thing into a star destroyer around and able to outmaneuver both of these pilots to the point where Finn was able to destroy them. That is a Mary Sue. That is not like people. Well, at the time they were a bit more accepting of this type of stuff. They really are now. So that's why when they announced the Ray movie, most people was like, "Why? Like, why are you making this?" Uh, People are not really that interested in this project. Okay. All right. The film's box office also told a story. At the time when Disney's Marvel movies kept breaking new tickets sales records, Force made with extraordinary 2 billion worldwide. Jedi dropped to a still huge 1.3, and then Skywalker made 1 billion, which is, still a billion. Yeah, but it's half of what the first one did. Typically, the way this kind of works is that the first one does really good. The second one does not as good, but still good. And then the third one tends to do a little bit better than the second one. That's kind of what most of these trilogies are like. These are incredible numbers for any film, but they are going in the wrong way. When the third entry in the trilogy, launching a new franchise, sells at half as many tickets as the first, you probably made a wrong turn somewhere. Yes. Alrighty. Around the same time, the studio experimented with two standalone titles. There was 2016's gorgeous looking and compelling, if wildly uneven, Rogue One, earning a billion, a film whose reputation has improved since it was released. Yeah, I like Rogue One. I think most people like Rogue One. They really like the end with Darth Vader smashing the hell out of everybody. You just ignore the fact that he's going to get into a fight with Obi-Wan in what, maybe a week later, and they're gonna be prancing around like two old men. So you just ignore that because it was a cool scene, regardless of how it actually fits in the canon. And 2018's widely panned Solo, which made it disastrous for the franchise, 393 million. The film's reputation has not improved since it's been released. Yeah, because basically it did not tell the story of Han Solo. It just told a fan fiction version of Han Solo. One of the things was the fact that like Han Solo's name is actually he's technically like, I don't know if he's royalty, but he's high place on Corolla. Like his cousin is the ruler of Corolla, like the head, like person in charge of everything. So he's in a high place family, and the blood stripes on his pants are again, it's all ties into his lineage. And the fact that they just ignored all that and made this stupid ass story about how he didn't have a name, and when he was trying to get on the ship, he was talking to a imperial officer, and the imperial officer made a joke about how he was by himself. So he said, "I'm just gonna call you Solo," and that was stupid. So All right, let's finish this article. All right, both had behind the scenes drama and reshoots that saw the original directors being replaced during filming. Yes. I'm not sure what Kennedy's problem with Rogue One was, but it's like with Solo, it's like most of the film was made, and I guess Kennedy didn't really pay attention to anything until like at the last minute. She watched what the footage was and decided that she didn't like it, so she tried to get Ron Howard to come through and basically redo the movie. So it's probably why it feels a little disjointed and all that. So, all right. After the rise of Skywalker, Disney paused making big screen Star Wars movies altogether, but continued to announce new films in development from top creatives. The list of well-known writers and directors who have come and gone is comically long. Ryan Johnson with his trilogy, Dave Benohoff and Dan Weiss also enlisted for a trilogy. They fell off because they shit the bed for Game of Thrones and the terrible, terrible final season of that. Patty Jenkins, Colin Trevorrow, Damon Lindelof, David S. Goyer. I don't know why he was. Josh Trank. Yeah, he kind of crazied himself out of that. Guillermo del Toro, Taika Waititi, and Marvel chief Kevin Feige. Some of their projects were confidently announced as movies that were definitely happening until they weren't, and the others were never revealed publicly. If all this seems rather chaotic for a studio that's famously meticulous, well, yes, it does. The charitable read is that Star Wars movies should be very special, and the studio is determined to get them right. A batch of projects that are still in the works is James Mangold is developing a Dawn of the Jedi feature. Sean Levy is working on an untitled film. Jenkins' Rogue Squadron is resurfaced this year, resurrected this year. Really? Okay, that's news to me. Lindell House feature starring Daisy Ridley Ray is shifted to director Charmin Obad Chinoy, who is a documentarian who has never actually made a film like this. And it's uncertain which of these, if any, will be made. Even if the studio spat out announcement after announcement on the film side, Disney largely switched its focus to bringing Star Wars to TV for its Disney Plus streaming service. I can bring you in warm, I can bring you in cold. Once again, Disney came out of the gate incredibly strong. 2019 debut season of Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian nearly single-handedly made Disney Plus an out-of-the-box success. Charmed critics and audiences, is even nominated for an Emmy for Best Drama. Moreover, The Mandalorian proved live-action Star Wars and TV was possible. It is easy to forget that this show was considered a big gamble at the time. Yeah. All right. Basically, Jon Favreau was kind of left in the corner because this was not a high priority, and he was left alone. So he made a project that everybody loved, and because of Grogu, like little baby Yoda, which became a huge favorite of women for the most part. I think when that happened, that is when it got on the priority side of Lucasfilm, and then they started like sticking their hands in the pie and basically screwed that series up, because the next season was mostly cameos and stuff like that. Now, at the end of season 2, they had a lot of hype. People really liked the end of season 2 because Luke Skywalker came back and he was kicking butt, and he was not the Luke Skywalker from the movies. He was what everybody who is a fan of Star Wars remembers, an ass-kicking Jedi. So that happens. Gina Carano basically came into her own that season. So people really loved her character. And then the summer hit, and the first thing that happened is Lucasfilm Story Group, the leader of that, I forgot what his name was, decided to make fun of Star Wars fans. Then Gina Carano basically gets fired. So all of Jon Favreau's plans for her to be part of this, the Knights of the Republic, not the Knights of the Republic. I forgot what it's called, but the show that she was supposed to be in, everything was going to tie into this overall universe. It's going to be like kind of how Marvel was, where everything was tied. All these shows were tied together, and that all was played around the Mandalorian. So by firing Carano, that basically screwed all of that up. Kind of pissed John Favreau off. So when they came out with the Boba Fett show, and the guy who was playing Boba Fett basically said that John Favreau was essentially checked out for that entire show. And in the middle of that, they decided to do a sneaky thing where they stuck the two episodes of the Mandalorian in the middle of, or at, like at, towards the end, where he gets Grogu back because uh, the story group has a bug up their butt about Luke Skywalker and didn't want to give. So even though you had all kinds of goodwill from the fan base, and if they would have kept doing what they were doing, they probably wouldn't be in the position that they are in right now. But they couldn't help themselves. And so when people came back to watch The Mandalorian season 3, they're expecting a whole different type of vibe because Mando would have been by himself, and it would have been a whole like lone gunman type of thing. But no, Grogu's back, and it made like no sense like whatsoever to anybody who didn't watch Boba Fett. So if you didn't watch Boba Fett, you would have had no idea what happened and why Grogu was back with him. All right, so let's finish this article up. All right. Given Favreau, he deserved to be honored in one of those medal ceremonies in Yavin. In season 3, the Mandalorian creatively stumbled a bit. Yeah, they stumbled a lot. Ratings slipped a little, and the show received backlash for the first time. Instead of a fourth season, Disney decided to pivot The Mandalorian to launch its own first Star Wars feature film since The Rise of Skywalker, coming in 2026. If that actually happens, The Mandalorian Grogu will probably perform well, yet it also looks like Disney spent many years and untold capital struggling to develop a new Star Wars movie, and its best idea was an extra long episode of a TV show. I've seen TV shows that would turn into theatrical movies. Very few of them actually make for good movies. Mandalorian came 2020's The Book of Boba Fett, which I talked about, which was where some problems with the franchise TV efforts first emerged. So much about this brief effort was really clunky. 2 Mandalorian episodes were unexpectedly sandwiched into the show's 7, and they felt like a band-aid effort to repair a struggling show. The Book of Boba Fett was originally a series, not a mini-series, but is quickly considered concluded. There have been 4 new shows since. Obi-Wan Kenobi from showrunner director Derek Cho. Fans are excited to see Ian McGregor reprise this role. Yeah, and they basically had him babysitting Leia, which he wasn't supposed to. He left Luke on the planet by himself. You had numerous if you watch the trilogy, the original trilogy, Darth Vader hadn't seen Obi-Wan in a long time. But if you watched Obi-Wan, no, that not the case. They met each other when they were still relatively young-ish, like in middle age or whatever. So then it made the scene from the original trilogy make no sense because they actually did see each other. Then you had a unnecessary battle. You had a Disney created character who somehow knew everyone's secret and is existing in the original trilogy universe, knowing all of this, but not saying anything, thus creating a giant friggin' plot hole that I don't know how they can resolve it. So I don't know. All right, see what they say about that. Aiden Christensen turned to Darth Vader. The show was likable enough despite some weak sequences and winning the ratings. Obi-Wan opened to a 1.03 billion minutes of viewing, according to Nelson, even bigger than Mando season 3's opening 823 million. Yeah, season 3 of Mando, you because of how you did season 2, you kind of lost a lot of people. So included with a strong 860 million for its finale, Obi-Wan Kenobi was a limited series, however, and there are no current plans for more episodes. Although Ian McGregor kind of wants them to continue, I don't know how that is possible because his character is supposed to stay on Tatooine and just watch over Luke as Luke grows up. So that's not. Now there are comics and books that were created that gives some indication of things that happened while he was doing that. So there is stuff I guess that they could do, but I don't really trust the story group to actually do that. So 2022's Andor from Rogue One fixer Tony Gilroy, who returned to make his prequel series in the film he's swooped in the rescue midway through production. Andor has a grown-up Star Wars title that felt grounded in heavily used practical effects and on-location filming instead of the LED volume wall technology used by the other shows for their backgrounds, which sometimes make them look like a blurry stage plays. Yeah. The show was also massively expensive, with a budget estimated to be as high as 250 million for 12 episodes, as opposed to the 300 million for the Acolyte for 8 episodes. So critics and fans enjoyed the result, however, and Andor was an Emmy nominated for Best Drama Series at 96% in Rotten Tomatoes. Andor is actually the best reviewed live action Star Wars TV movie, and his rating did not fully reflect this esteem. It opened with 624 million minutes before falling into the 400 million range for subsequent weeks, then jumped back into 674 million for its finale. There will be a second season in 2025 to conclude the story. Yor originally pitched the show as 5 seasons and has said it was his decision to shorten the project. It would not be surprising if Andor's ratings pop for season 2 as more casual Star Wars fans discover the show. I don't know. Everyone who watched this show talks about it and says that it was a great show, but that still can't get anyone to actually watch it because you have destroyed Star Wars as a brand. Like I said previous, the whole draw of Star Wars is the fact that people like to own a piece of it, from the lightsabers to actual full blown outfits to all this other stuff. And Disney can't sell any of that crap now because they have essentially destroyed it. And see if we can finish this up. All right. 2023 is Ahsoka. How long is this article? Oh, this is long. So I don't know if I'm gonna read all this. All right. So this 2023 is Ahsoka from Clone Wars Mastermind and Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is not the savior of Star Wars, regardless of how much these people think that he is. Ahsoka was a terribly written show. A lot of stuff in it didn't make any sense, and basically, it is a love letter for Dave Filoni's freaking his created characters. So it's full of his created characters. They all they make dumb decisions. It's like what they did with Thrawn was just ridiculous. He is the most strategic admiral that the Empire had, but in Ahsoka, he's constantly losing. But somehow he's still supposed to be threatening, even though he gets beat all the damn time. All right. The show, I don't know who these positive reviews, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, popular critics, not, and they have a tendency to not talk about the fan base because the fan base did not like Ahsoka that much, and somewhat mixed reaction from fans. It was not really mixed. A lot of people did not like. Most people did not like this show. Okay, it opened up at 129 million minutes and declined to about 570. All right, the Acolyte series set 100 years before. Yeah, it was bad. Okay, so Disney is launching John Watts and Christopher Ford Skeleton Crew, which centers on a group of children embarking on a space adventure. Making an all ages rating smash is difficult nowadays, so having Skeleton Crew focus on kids like Andor is targeted to grown-ups. It might be a smart play. Probably not, because kids aren't into Star Wars. Like the thing that kept Star Wars in the minds of people are the older fan base introducing it to their children. And in this case, in the last 12 years or so, Disney has been essentially pissing off those people. So they're probably not introducing the Disney Star Wars stuff to their fan base. To their children. They're probably showing them like the old stuff, the books, because it's a lot of books, comics, and all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty evident because when they sell classic characters as action figures and stuff like that, those seem to do fairly well. When they do anything with new Disney's Star Wars stuff, they do not sell well at all. So, okay. Yeah. Okay, they're talking about all right, so it's 6 live action shows in 5 years. Just one, Mandalorian has been an outright hit with critics and fans and has delivered a multi-season run, which is the traditional model for TV success. Okay. I wonder if there's I'm trying to see if there's anything where they talk about it is okay. What is left for Disney Plus after Skeleton Crew, the final season of Andor, and the second season of Ahsoka. In 2020, Disney bullishly announced 10 new Star Wars shows at an investor event heralding the glorious new era of Star Wars television. These entries included Lando, now being redeveloped by star Donald Glover and his brother Stefan into a film, and the Rangers of the New Republic, scratched for reasons. Yeah, the reasons is they fired Gina Carano and really pissed off at least half their fan base. Prospect of being left with a single ongoing live action Star Wars show after Andor concludes surely wasn't the company's hope of coming out of the announcement. But it is, given Kennedy's track record, it's basically is to be expected because this is how everything else has been going. Big plans and then stuff just fizzles out. Hangover all this increasingly suspicious the increasing suspicion that the company may be wrung out of the rag creatively. Speaking of storyline code from Lucas's original trilogy and his prequels, even acolyte haters should give the show credit for telling a story that's far removed from the Skywalker saga as a skeleton crew. This is entirely Disney's fault, but one of the challenging moving forward is how do you make Star Wars feel fresh and new while feeling like Star Wars and not say Rebel Moon? Hmm. Yeah, not gonna fit. Okay. All right. Star Wars has hundreds of books, like hundreds, of telling all kinds of stories from bounty hunters to the like. The Star Wars universe is vast, filled up with different planets. They have different. You have the Old Republic, and you have stuff into the future of Luke Skywalker's like great grandchildren. So there is plenty of stories to tell. The problem is they do not want to tell those stories. They want to make up their own stories, and it's pretty obvious that the people who are still left aren't very good at making new stories. I never understood when they decided to shelve what they call legends, which are the books. I did not understand why you did that because you had proven writers who wrote very fan beloved stories that have a bunch of new characters that you could have. What they should have done is you can there's two things they could have did. They could have did like the generations thing with Star Trek, where you had the old crew from Star Trek and then the new crew of Star Trek all in one movie, where you could introduce your characters and still paid homage to the older ones and had them have a satisfactory conclusion to their story. Oh, you funny. No, you could have had a satisfactory ending to all the characters, thus introducing new characters. You could have did what many people was thinking that you was gonna do. You could have did the thing where both Ray and Finn were both Jedi. One would have been a stormtrooper who is a Jedi, both being trained by Luke Skywalker to fight who see look these stories have fallen out of my head. I'm trying to remember who the the villain in the first one was. Like the Anyway, so you could have had them actually train and take on that guy in the final movie, which would have been interesting. You would have had two new Jedi's who you could have told stories about. Or you could have recast Han, Luke, and Leia. You still could have had the original group in as to tell a story about how, to initiate a story about an adventure that they had as younger people. So then you could have written new Luke, new Han, new Leia, Chewbacca, new Lando, all that stuff. Told a story of what took place after the Return of the Jedi. You could have introduced new characters into that, who you could eventually spun off into their own adventures. You could have did that too, or you can just adapt it, which most people will probably would have been okay with at the time. I don't know about so much now because you have destroyed every time you take a character from one of these books, you have basically destroyed them. Or you could have taken one of the books, like I said, written by accomplished writers that are beloved by fans, and just told those stories. It's already written out. Just figure out how to make it into a film, and you could have went from there. So you wouldn't have to worry about, like this article is talking about, how you run out of creative juices. I'm like, there's plenty of stuff that you could have did. You just didn't do it. So I don't know. This article doesn't really touch on, other than giving me numbers, why they think. Hold on, let me double check. Maybe I missed something. It's like how they think that that Disney is bad for Star Wars. Yeah, they just start talking about Kennedy produced some of the most beloved iconic. No, she was involved with. See, and given what Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have said about her, she was basically getting coffee. So yeah, and yeah, it doesn't really touch on. Right there. Yeah, no, they don't really stop that, and they don't really touch on why they feel that. So, like whatever. Star Wars is, at this point, the Star Wars IP is dead. It is what it is, and the people there at Disney do not have enough talent to be able to fix it. I think it will be a fairly easy fix. You just got to tell good stories. Because look, um, Marvel is in a similar state, but Daredevil and not Daredevil, Deadpool and Wolverine showed that you can make money with this project. You just got to do something that people want to go see. It's very simple. And I keep saying this, people want to give you money. It's like they got a lot of problems. They want to escape for a little bit. That's, they want to do that. It's just that for whatever reason, you guys have decided to not let them give them anything that they want to give you money for. So, all right. Okay, so the next topic is the Ahsoka. Since we stick with Star Wars, I would talk about the Rings of Power, but that would have been a more fun conversation with my compatriots, but they couldn't make it today. Rings of Power in a nutshell is episode 7 finished. They still had a bunch of things to wrap up in episode 8, and they decided to wrap each one of them up in like 5 minutes in the most ridiculous way possible. The let's see. The dwarves didn't show up to help the elves because King Doran was doing something where uh, his son's wife said that they needed the army for. And so in the beginning of the show, instead of bringing the army with him, he just goes by himself. So there was no reason for them to hold the army back, like none. So he talks with his dad. They poke a hole in the wall. There's more Mitro, and the giant Balrog is in there. And at this point, his dad decides to take the ring off his finger, which made them instantly evil for some ridiculous reason. Throws it on the ground and attacks the Balrog. He jumps in the air, smacks the monster with his axe, which causes a shock wave, which pushes them back through the hole and close the hole up. And then for some reason, the Balrog decides not to attack everybody else in the mine for the next 1,000 years. It's like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but like whatever. Then you get to the Numenorians, where the last time we saw them, the queen survived one of their trials, and it looked like everyone was on her side. And then the dude that's in charge now decided to pull a fast one and say no, that the reason why that happened is because of Sauron, and arrest people. And so that kind of got wrapped up in 5 minutes. Basically everyone on this show is stupid. It's just like stupid after stupid after stupid after stupid after stupid. Galadriel is escorting people out of their little elf capital through a like their secret route. And when they come out of the secret route, it's completely surrounded by orcs. So it's like, well, if the orcs knew about the secret route, why didn't they just then go down into the cave to open up the gate from that way? It's like whatever. She has the 9 rings with her, and she decides to use that to bargain for the 5 or 7 people that's with her. She goes over to Aldor. She's going to give him the 9 rings. He has her ring. They have a whole discussion and all that fun stuff. Then Aldor's second in command confronts Sauron, who is torturing the elf. I can never say this dude's name, but he's shooting him with arrows and he's trying to find out what the last 9 is. The orcs show up. They have a conversation. So as Galadriel is talking with Eldor, his second in command walks up and stabs him and betrays him because somehow he switched over to being for Sauron, but you never showed this. So like, well, like why again, they're trying to wrap up every loose end that they've had for this season. It's like they figured out at the last minute, it's like, oh shit, we need to wrap up all these loose ends before we go into the next season. So they decided to do it at a breakneck speed. Things just happen because they just happen. So the orcs betray their father because reasons. They stab him 100 times, and he takes forever to die. He's just full of stab wounds. Then they say hail Sauron and asks him what he wants them to do, and he basically tells them to do the exact same thing that Eldor, who they just stabbed to death, told them to do. It's like, okay. He and Galadriel get into a ridiculous fight because she is a 4'10" woman who weighs 90 pounds, and then she's standing there in her battle boots. She looks like she barely fits into her battle boots. They get into this ridiculous fight where he's transforming into other people that she knows, which is confusing her for some reason. He eventually gets the upper hand by stabbing her with his crown. And as he is he's trying to get her to give him she already gave him, he already got the 9 rings. He's trying to get her ring from her. And as she's standing on the edge of a cliff, she says no and jumps backwards off the cliff. It's like, okay. At the same time, the elves are being held by the orcs in the city, and they are burning all of the Smith's books and all this other stuff. They all are distraught, yada yada yada. Dom Legolas shows up again, which is amazing because you just showed him getting stabbed and shot with arrows, so he should be dead, but apparently he's not dead, and he's walking around like he's perfectly fine, even though he got shot with arrows and stabbed in the chest. So, okay. And as all hope looks to be lost, then the dwarves show up. Somehow the orcs don't know that an entire army of dwarves just show up. Don't know. Same like they never noticed that a bunch of elves on horses showed up. Again, the riders need something to happen, and it just happens. There's no reason for why it happens. Fine. They fight off the orcs, and as they win the battle, they're looking up and they see Galadriel fall off the cliff. The cliff is about 1,000 feet high because somehow their escape cave winds up at the top of the mountain instead of at the bottom, but like whatever. She falls down. Sauron looks down. I'm thinking that she fell in the water, like Elrond did at the beginning of the season. Because like, even though you shouldn't survive falling that far into water, especially uncontrolled and like on your back, that should basically break your back. But whatever. He looks over the cliff and to see if he can find her. The elves find her. She hit the ground so hard that she made an indent in the ground. All right. She should be dead. She's not. She just was knocked out. Her only injuries come from the crown poisoning her where she got stabbed. She survived a blast to the face from a volcano. She survived falling 1,000 feet into the forest below. Like, okay, whatever. She's like, she's Superwoman, I guess. It turns into like a whole speech about what we're gonna do because eventually they heal her and she's perfectly fine. And like the elves said, are we going to go back to our city and set up a defensive thing because somehow it's because Sauron has his army now. He's gonna attack them. Oh, okay. Or we can go fight, beat it. So it's either sword or the shield, right? So they decided to be the sword, even though they only showed like 3 dudes who have swords and everybody else is civilians. It's like, okay, like whatever. This show is just it was so bad, written so badly, and it's going to get us another season from these people who do not know how to write anything, who do not know how battles work, who do not know how rivers work, who do not know how catapults don't look like trebuchets, but they keep calling them trebuchets even though they're catapults. Catapults that couldn't destroy a yeah. Like you got catapults that couldn't destroy a wall, but somehow can destroy a mountain range. Like, okay. So the only good thing about this show is that I don't have to worry about it for 2 more years. And who knows where I'll be at in 2 more years. Well, I won't even probably watch it because I didn't watch the first season. I watched the synopsis of it. And I can see how every Lord of the Rings fan is pissed off about this because one, the elf ringmaster or whatever, Celebrimbor, he calls Sauron the Lord of the Rings. And like, so when he said that, I'm just like whatever, dude. Just I am so out on this damn show. So all right, that's it. I said I was going to talk about it. It would have been a much better conversation with other people, but that's basic synopsis of the nonsense that actually happened. So we should get into some more nonsense by talking about Ahsoka. There we go. Let's share that one. And let's another lovely thing about I cannot believe that they're making another. Yeah, I can't believe they're making a second season of this show. This is just Dave Filoni filleting himself, which is pretty amazing. Okay, season 2 expected to finally begin production next year after being announced in January, with Star Wars fans quickly starting to lose faith in starting. Starting, that's funny. In Lucasfilm's President Kathleen Kennedy's vision, fucking ads. Vision for the franchise and her apparent inability to get new movies in the theaters. The news that Dave Filoni would serve as studio's chief creative officer was welcome by the Dave Filoni fans, not by pretty much anybody else, because he sucks just as bad as she does. Okay, freaking ads keep moving all over the place. I know you need to do ads to make money because you're not making money, but dude, it's hard to read stuff on your site. He was already a key figure. What the? No, I do not want to. Overseeing Disney Plus post return of the Jedi TV shows, and during last year's Star Wars Celebration, it was confirmed that he also helmed his own movie, was expecting to serve as a conclusion to this current era of streaming storytelling with Din Djarin, Ahsoka Tano, and more assembling to battle Grand Admiral Thrawn, who you have not made a threat because he keeps losing all the time. Before we get there, Ahsoka 2 needs to answer some lingering questions and better set the stage that for what could end up being Filoni's take on the classic heir to the Empire. All right. You cannot. The fact that they're trying to stick, Dave Filoni is trying to stick Ahsoka in a Luke Skywalker story makes me not want to watch this. Because there are aspects of this story that you cannot tell without having Luke Skywalker. Okay. One of which is the fact that all right. One of which is the fact that Thrawn's bodyguards are a race of cat-like aliens who are like basically like cat ninjas who are tied to Darth Vader. And the only reason that he has control of them is because he is speaking for Darth Vader. And there's an in the era of the in this storyline, Luke and like Leia and Luke both take turns with this group. And the only reason it worked is because they're the children of Vader. They smell like him. So therefore they follow them because they see them as the heir to Vader. That is the only reason that worked. Otherwise, they're just going to be like some background dudes who just kill people for this guy's benefit and will lessen their character, like lessen their impact on the story. So then you don't have the Empire and like because you decide to in the Clone War, no, not the Clone Wars, the that other shows from Filoni, where you basically sent Thrawn over into another galaxy instead of where he was supposed to be, which is in the unexplored parts of the Star Wars universe, where that's where the remnants of the Empire went, and he took control over them. So because you didn't do that, you can't tell that part of the story either. I don't know how you introduce Colin Guard. I don't know how you introduce any other characters that are in this thing because they are tied to characters that you have not actually created yet. Because that's like Rogue Squadron. There's so many books where all the principal characters are tied into that. But the most important one is Luke Skywalker. This story is about Luke Skywalker. And sticking Ahsoka into the middle of that, excuse me, is stupid. So it's not going to be good because I don't know how you have to carve out so much of this storyline in order to make this work. It just annoys the crap out of me. The first batch of episodes wrapped up on Disney Plus just over a year ago, and the Hollywood Reporter now brings a long way to update about where things stand for season 2 of Ahsoka, according to the trade, after being announced in this past January. So as to say, the new season will go into production next year. With any luck, that means we'll be watching Ahsoka season 2 by 2026. And if you think anybody's going to care about that in 2026, I got a bridge to sell you. There is a huge gap between seasons, suggests that Filoni's Star Wars movie is still several years away. Still, we have Skeleton Crew this December and Andor season 2 next year. The Mandalorian Grogu, now a movie rather than season 4, coming in 2026 too. Because I've been writing Ahsoka 2, things have clicked. Dude, it's stupid fucking. I'm gonna have to get an ad blocker, man. This is ridiculous. I have much better idea about where things are going to go. I will say I have an opening which I really like a bit, and I'm very excited for that picture. I'm excited for the potential of just doing it. Right now, I'm gonna focus clearly on Ahsoka as well as the rest of the galaxy and how it's spinning. Mostly the characters that he created. That's the only characters he seemed to give a shit about. Everybody else, he does not seem to care about that much. Adding focus sermons, he's also working on the Mandalorian Grogu movie with Jon Favreau. He said it's been fun to dive into, and said Lucasfilm is currently putting one foot in front of the other with upcoming projects. Learning from George Lucas, I am certainly not the same as George. You're not. George Lucas, when it comes to making movies, George is a one-of-a-kind generational talent, and that's okay because there are principles about choices and being a good person and getting over your fears, and those are timeless no matter what style you are talking about. As always, stay tuned for updates on Ahsoka season 2 as we have them. this this show is going to be crap. The first one was crap from the fact that they the only reason um Ezra sacrificed himself in order to get thrown out of the galaxy so he wasn't a threat to the rest of the galaxy, and then you reverse that in the first thing. So now Ezra and Thrawn are in the Star Wars galaxy, and Ahsoka and her new Padawan are stuck in the galaxy where Thrawn was. Like, I don't know, maybe they'll just wait for the space whales and they'll come back somehow like that. The mark of a bad writer is when stuff just kind of happens on coinky dink, where it just kind of happens, where there is no build up to how this happens. There is no, the characters aren't well rounded. They seem to think that her Ahsoka being stoic is a good character trait when it's not. She gives you no reason why you should care about her because just the way that she acts. So, and I'm still annoyed that they're trying to redo a story written by a better writer. But why would I be surprised by that? Because that's basically the idea behind most of what modern entertainment is right now. Most video games that are coming out in the next year or so are all remasters. So it's all old games that people like that they're remastering. And what's funny about it is they can't just remaster the old game. They still got to add their crap to the old game to modernize it. So basically, your options for male and female are gone, and you take a game that was made 30 years ago, and now you have body type 1 and body type 2. They have edited off like the artwork for all this stuff to avert the male gaze. So basically, everything that they're doing in their own crap that no one is paying any kind of attention to, they're doing to older stuff, which make people not want to pay attention to that. It's like they just can't seem to get the fact that people don't want their shit. They don't want how they do their shit. They just have no interest in what they're offering. And it's actually pretty well, I would say that it's sad, but you know what it is? It's an opportunity for people to create their own stuff, you know, to make your own comics, make your own books, make your own videos about stuff. You got to take a chance where you come out there and you do something where the only person who's listening to is one of your friends. You do that for a while, eventually you get more than that, but you just got to put the effort into it. So, there is hope. Can't like one thing you should not be is black pilled on stuff because that doesn't help anybody. So, all right. Well, they got some more. I got some other articles, but I think I'm gonna call that a night. So to my friend out there, Elton, who's watching, thanks. And to anybody who watched this later, I would like to say thank you. Please leave a comment and please give me tips, whatever you want to say in the comments below. All right. So on behalf of myself and the rest of my absent friends, I'm out. Later.